Oh, hi there, this is Mr. Waterman again, and we're on lesson 1.4, Integers and Orders of Operations. Today we're going to be converting fractions and decimals, and mixed numbers and improper fractions. Alright, so, some people don't like fractions. I actually love them because whenever I think about fractions, I think about cake and pizza. Alright, if you've eaten cake and pizza in the last little while, or shared something with somebody, you've had to do some fractions, or something to do with fractions. Alright? So the first thing we're going to do is reduce fractions into lowest terms. Well, what we're going to need to do is we need to make them as small as possible. So we're going to start off with 4 over 14. Alright, so 4/14. So what we're going to do is we're going to find a common factor, and this is a number that can be put into both the top and the bottom, our numerator and our denominator. Alright, so we're going to ask ourselves, what numbers make up 4? Well, 1 times 4 is 4, and 2 times 2 is 4. Alright, those are our factors for 4. Next we're going to do the same thing for 14. 1 and 14, and 2 and 7. Alright, and then we ask ourselves, well, what is the greatest common factor? Well, it turns out that it's 2. So that's the number that we're going to divide both our numerator and our denominator by. So we're going to go 14 over 4 divided by 2 divided by 2. That's the largest number that will go into both numbers evenly. And we get 2 over 7. That's an equivalent fraction. That's the exact same as 4 over 14. Alright, let's try one more. 21 over 35. Now, if you're really good at your multiplication tables, you'll know that a certain big number goes into 21 and 35. But if we're not so good at our multiplication tables, we got to do this. 1 and 21 make up 21. 3 and 7 make up 21. Next for 35, we've got 1 and 35, and we've got 5 and 7. 7 is our greatest common factor, so we're going to divide each one by 7. So 21 divided by 7, and 35 divided by 7, and we get 3 over 5, or 3/5. Alright? You can start to do this in your head instead of finding a common factor. You can just do it right in your head. But that number has to go into both the top and bottom evenly. Alright. Next we're going to convert fractions to decimals. Now this is a little trickier. I've broke it down into steps for you. Alright? So we're going to find a number you can multiply the bottom number, the denominator, by, so that it equals 100, 10, 1,000, or 10,000. Then we're going to multiply both the top and the bottom by that number. Then we're going to write down the top number and move the decimal to the left one spot for every 0. Alright, so that's going to make a little bit more sense in a second here. So let's start with a fraction, 3 over 4. Well, if we don't have a calculator, how are we going to get that into a decimal? Well, simple. Let's make it equal to 100. And we're going to find out what number goes on top. Well, what times 4 equals 100? And it turns out that 25 does. 4 times 25 is 100. Whatever we do to the top, whatever we have to do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. So 3 times 25 is 75. And we get 75 over 100. So we've done step 1. We find a number we can multiply the bottom number by so that it equals 10, 100, 1,000, or 10,000. Next, we're going to multiply both the top and the bottom by that number, and we just did that. Now we're going to write down the top number and move the decimal to the left one spot for every 0 on the bottom. So we have 2 zeros on the bottom. So we're going to move over 1, 2, and we move over 1, 2, and we get 0.75. That's what 3 divided by 4 equals as a decimal. Alright, let's try one more. Let's try 3/8. Alright, so we know that 3 is close to 4, and 4 out of 8 is half. So we're looking for a number that's going to be half. Alright, so we don't know what are we going to have to get 8 to equal either 10, 100, or 1,000, or 10,000. Well, it doesn't go evenly into 10. It doesn't go evenly into 100. It could go in evenly to 1,000. Well, if you want to know, you can just go a trick. We can go 1,000 divided by 8, and we get 125. So that's going to be the number we multiply the bottom and the top by. And we get 375. Alright, so we have 375 out of 1,000. That's an equivalent fraction. Now, we're going to move our decimal to the left one spot for each 0, and we've got 3, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and 3 over 8 equals 0.375 as a decimal. Alright, why don't you try this one? Try that one on your own. Now, we're going to convert decimals to fractions. So first off, we're going to write down a decimal. Let's start with 0.75. And we're going to put it over 1. Next, we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by 10 for every number after the decimal. So we have two decimals, two numbers. And we're going to multiply it by 10 and 10, which is 100. So we're going to get 75 over 100. Alright? Now, we have our fraction, and now we're going to reduce it. We're going to find, just what we did before, the greatest common factor. Well, what number goes into each 75 and 100 each? Well, 25. And I'd like to think about money when we're dealing with these numbers. 25, 25, and we get 3 over 4. Alright, let's try one more. Let's try 0.625. Alright, so there's our decimal, and we're going to put it over 1. And then it says multiply the top and the bottom by 10 for every number after the decimal. And we've got 3 numbers, so we're going to multiply it by 10 by 10 by 10, which is 1,000. And we get 625 over 1,000. Now that's a little bit hard to reduce, but we're going to divide. 25 goes into each one. So we get 25 divided by 25. Whatever we do to the top, we have to do to the bottom. And we get 625 divided by 25 is 25. And the bottom is going to be 40. Alright? And we can do that again. 5 can go into that, so we're going to get 5 over 8. Alright? Good job. Alright, like try one more. 1.75. Try that one yourself. Alright, we're going to go into improper fractions and mixed numbers. Alright, so what is an improper fraction? This is when the top number is bigger than the bottom number. So let's go 3 over 2. This is my numerator, and this is my denominator. And an improper fraction is when my numerator is always bigger than my denominator. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to ask ourselves, how many times does the 2 go into the 3? Alright, and then how many are left over? So we've got 1, and we pull our denominator down, and we ask ourselves, what's left over when we go 2 times 1 is 2, and we add 1 to get the 3. Alright, so this is the same thing as saying 3 over 2, but we said 1 and 1/2. Alright, let's try one more. 5 over 2. Okay, well, how many times does 2 go into 5? Well, it goes in twice. And then we bring our denominator down, and we have 2. And then we're going to go 2 times 2, which is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. Alright? And you can also, and I'd like you to try this one on your own, 7 over 4. Okay, this is our last section. We're going to do Pythagoras in class. So our mixed numbers to improper fractions. So let's start with 7 3/4. Alright, well how do we get that into an improper fraction? Alright, mixed numbers has a whole number and a fraction. Improper fractions have a big numerator and a small denominator. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply our denominator by our whole number. So we're going to go 4 times 7 is 28, and then we're going to add our numerator. So 28 plus 3 is 31, and we're going to keep our denominator. So 7 3/4 is the same as saying 31 over 4. All right, let's try one more. 1 7/9. All right. Well, how do we get that into an improper fraction, not a mixed number? We're going to go 9 times 1 plus 7 is 16/9. All right, so they go back and forth. All right, I'd like you to try one more here. This is the one you can try. 2 3/11. Give it a shot. Have a good night.